Hi, everybody. I'm super happy to introduce my friend Efrat. We had this conversation back in September 11th. That was a very meaningful day for me. It was a year anniversary after my mom's passing. And for many of you that know, or the ones you don't know, I had studied the World Trade Center back in 2001, and I was saved because of a pack of cigarettes. But anyway, we met on that day and we had this conversation, and I've been listening to it and preparing it to launch it today. One of the things I want to talk about the astrology before I introduce the conversation is that Mars just went retrograde on the 6th, and Neptune is stationing direct on the 7th. This is quite meaningful because Neptune is at the very last degrees of Pisces. It's been there since 2011. A lot of the illusion and fantasy and kind of like distorted reality, it's happening because Neptune is at the very end of the cycle in its own sign, and also Saturn is approaching. So this is a very important event, the Neptune going direct, because as it goes direct, sometime during the spring of 2025, the next few months, it's going to enter the sign of Aries. This doesn't happen very often. It takes 165 years for Neptune to go around the cycle. And so this is meaningful because as it goes direct, it means that perhaps we're going to start to really get more concentrated on what is it that we're seeing and what perception is, because a lot of the things that we perceive are based on the conditions that we have, our relationship to our instincts, our relationship to our intuition, our relationship to our emotional body. So with Efrat, we had a beautiful conversation. We spoke about where she's coming from. She grew up in Israel. She went to the army. She has a very important message to give. She's a fellow Bitcoiner. She has become a close friend. And I really like her take on freedom, what she's doing with her life to reach out to people about the adoption of Bitcoin and how it is actually serving humanity to get into the next level where we're going. We don't know where we're going anyway, but we have a sense that it's a new beginning. So with the astrology, I can confirm that Neptune and Saturn are going to be briefly in Aries next year. They're going to go back retrograde, and then back in 2026, February, I believe it's 20th, it's going to be the dawn on a new cycle. So brace yourselves for the conversation. She has so much to offer, and I hope that you guys enjoy. I made this available to all my subscribers. So yeah, have a great week and enjoy all the pre-holiday, all the stuff that people do during Christmas, or how do you call it? The holidays. I don't celebrate any of that, but many of you do. So that doesn't mean that I cannot wish you a good holiday. Take care. Bye-bye. Till the next week. Hello, my dear.
Hello, beautiful creature.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. I was just like doing a little review because today feels like a new rebirth for me. It's like in three different
September 11th, new
yes.
book.
My book, no, wait, because then I four.
Mom. Okay, 4.
Yeah, so
Mom.
it's my mom's first anniversary today.
Yes.
Second one is 23 years ago. I was saved by like a pack of cigarettes because I was at the World Trade Center and I was supposed to sleep over, but I didn't have any cigarettes left, and my ex-husband asked me to come back. I actually called him and said, "Can you give me ciggies?" And he goes, "No, it's raining." So I basically went back. So that's like a new birth again, and we can talk a little bit later about that. But my chart, my astrology chart, there was a very important configuration. That's why I really got into astrology, because I basically missed the bullet. It could have been the end of my life, but it was the beginning of a new. And yesterday I did. Yesterday I did
a family constellation with somebody in Australia. He's Italian. I'm telling you, 15 minutes only. 15 minutes. And it was like, and because we're going to talk about generational trauma, we're going to talk about that. So basically, I booked this 4 months ago. Somebody had been following, and he's very, very strong. Like you see him, his presence, and he actually has a fun history. Like he's been through hell and heaven and back. His life is somebody was really lived. He's young, but he's powerful. And I said, I want to have a meeting with him. But when I tried to do the meeting, the only time he had was last night. And I thought, this is beautiful because my video is called You Don't Die on the Eve of Your Death. And I thought, this is just so perfect. So I got into the call. I didn't know it was going to be 20 minutes. It was really fast. But he basically makes you go to a place of something I want to like unlock. And I did. So he asked me this morning, he said, go to the beach. I don't usually go this early. So I just went to the beach. I had a beautiful, Miami Beach in the morning. Had a beautiful greeting with the sea with my mom. And I just came back here. So I'm here in the book.
Well done. Well done. In the book. Yes. It really is a significant time for you.
It is in a way. And I would like to say for a lot of people, and I want to start talking, I had kind of said what I want to talk about. So we start where we are today, and we could go back and forth in time and thinking a lot about what kind of personas we've been embodying in our life. They're not either good or bad. It's just like what we are
Yeah.
embody at the time to be the person that we are. So I'm back here. We met only like a month ago, probably 2 months ago most. And I'm very curious to ask you, what was it that sparking you for you to reach out for me? Because I'm usually the one that initiates. I'm the one like looking for stuff. What was it that you so felt?
I will tell you. It was I think I even remember the day that it was. I think I was in Colorado, and I was sitting there on the couch at Valerie's house, and I was telling her this really weird thing is happening. I put out there a message that I'm coming to Miami to do a talk and like to do a lecture. And from the moment I put that message, I didn't get any special, excitement from audience telling me we're coming, we're coming. In fact, hardly anyone signed up at the beginning. Finally, there were like 25 people. It was great, but at the beginning, it was very quiet. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe I'm not even going to do this talk because no one wants me to talk. Um, but the funny thing that started happening is that people that live in Miami started seeing my posts or contacting me in different places or engaging with my content, my other content. Now, it could be the algorithms, right? But it could be also something spiritual that I put out there because all of a sudden you, I think, saw something that I've put out there on Instagram and you liked it or something. And I have a habit from time to time. I like looking at the people that are engaging with me that I don't know, that are not the usual people that I know. And you were one of them. So I was looking at your profile, and within like 5 seconds, I was like, okay, she's like me. I don't know who she is, but she's like me. She's like one of us, you know? She's like
Oh,
into arts, creative, conspiracy theorist. She doesn't take any bullshit. I like within 5 seconds, I know who you are without knowing you. And I saw some of your videos or short clips. So I saw that not only that you put the truth out there, but you actually put some thinking into how you deliver your message, which I love because most people don't take the time to do that. They just like spew out whatever they have to say. And it's much more powerful when it comes from you in your own signature. I felt like I know you without talking to you within a few seconds. And then I said, hold on, she lives in Miami. Like I saw, I guess it's written, or I saw that you're in Miami. And by now, like spending the past 4 years with, the development, the personal development and the spirituality journey that I've been going through, and spending, I think, the past 44 years of my life understanding that there are some times where I meet people that it's the right time for me to meet them, even if I don't, or we collide, and then we may, go apart at some point, but there is a purpose for us coming together at a certain time, because there's always a lesson that I learn out of these kind of encounters. So I said, she may be another one of those people that I just have to meet. And so I reached out to you and I said, yeah, I'm coming to Miami. Are you there? Do you want to meet up?
And
And it's funny because sometimes uh, guys told me, or some girls as well, when I was single after I got divorced, and I think it was 5 years where I couldn't find any decent man that I liked. Like, I went on so many dates and it was so depressing. After every date, I would come back home and like bang my head to the walls, like, not again, another idiot or whatever. Just like someone who's afraid of me and my size and my energy and everything. I felt like I'm never gonna meet anyone. There's all this spiritual bullshit where people give you, you're not ready for it yet, so it's not coming. Once you're ready, it will come. And I'm like, I'm fucking ready. Like, I really want this. And it's not coming. And so I knew that I had no problem if I see someone that I like, that I think is decent and is worthy and looks good, and I feel that there is a chance that there's something good there, I will approach them. And people would tell me, but you're the girl. And I'm like, what?
yeah,
Who cares? Who am I? The boy, the girl, the man, the woman? Do we have roles like in this lifetime? Did we get like when we were born, did we get this manual who says you're supposed to do this and that and you're not supposed to do this and that? Fuck it. If I see a guy that I like, I will approach them. And everyone was really, surprised by me being like putting my ego aside and just like approaching guys if I thought that they were cool. Some of them would not answer me, and that was okay as well. It was an experience, it was a humbling experience. But that's also, I think, how I met some guys that were worthy. And so, in the same way that if there's something there that is interesting for me, I will go for it. I don't care, the prices or what will people think about me, or she's shameless or she's annoying or what, desperate. All these labels that we put on people that are doing things. I'm proactive. I don't give a fuck. If something good is supposed to happen in life, it happens. So that's why I approached you. I'm like, she's one of those that I need to meet.
thank you so much. You felt so good. I want to say, like, to do, I don't know if it's algorithm or not, or just like this intention, because I've been putting this intention out there for years now. I only want the universe to give me the right people, and then I can actually, as you just said it beautifully, like learn something from the experience. But I don't want, like, can you please filter the shit? The shit. I just a little bit of the shit, and I go, oh,
That would have helped me with the dates if I had that filter.
so I've been saying this, and I live quite a hermetic life here in Miami. I moved here 4 years ago. Oh, it was beautiful to receive that message because I felt like, okay, she sees me as I am. I'm not trying hard. I'm just being. And she connects with my energy because I have very strong energy. So I know that for somebody to dare to come this way, they're fucking courageous. So it said a lot about you. Like, you want to go, you want to do, you want to try, you want to merge, you just want to evolve because that's the
Yeah.
feeling you like also like it, and it's funny because I had seen you, like I've been in Bitcoin for a bit, but I had kind of seen your name
And of
here.
course, you're a Bitcoiner, and that was another one. It's like she ticks all the boxes.
And I've seen your name, but I had not, like, I've been so busy with my book that I hadn't really been paying attention, but your name appear and appear. And all of a sudden, like I had seen something, that's why I probably commented on something like 2 days before. And I heard, I think it was Alexander's podcast or something like that.
Mm.
And there was something about the conversation that I felt it was so warm, but at the same, it was very interesting. It was very interesting. And I thought, really like her. And then I swear to God, like within 3 hours, you messaged me, and I was like looking around, like, oh, she around here. So I said, sure, let's meet. And so we went for a coffee. It could be in 20 minutes, but it was like what, 4 hours. And you wanted me to do the chart, and this I have to tell this story because we were in this place where they're making croissants. So I was very curious about your chart because there's some intensity in you that I relate to completely. And your eyes are very Scorpio moon. And because I have those eyes too, it's like this like willingness, because the eyes in evolutionary astrology, the soul chooses a way to perceive reality, and that's through the moon. So the moon is actually how we are perceiving our emotional body. So the moon, we both have moon in Scorpio, so it is a very intense, it's
Yeah.
very focused,
Yeah.
it's merging, and it doesn't give up that easy. It's like, if I
Mm,
want that, I'm going to eat
mm.
it, I'm going to transform in it, and then I may throw it away, but we're not going to deal about that part. When it's, I mean, it's not throwing things away, but it's actually you become that, so you don't no longer need. It's like the butterfly. You don't need that body. You go into the next stage. And so I recognize that in you within, like, I don't know, like, what is she? And I remember like opening the phone and going like, oh, okay, what is your date? And I was like, oh my God, because I we have the same degree of our moon, like from 600 360 degrees that we can choose to be like connected. We're the same degree, and that means a lot. So I remember saying to you, like, no, we're croissants from the same batch, because they were taking some. I saw it was so beautiful. I was just like, I felt immediately so connected to you in so many levels. So I love that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for saying yes. I felt privileged to spend that time with you, and also later when we were doing our astrology session, I loved it. And obviously, once we met up, I knew that that we were right, that it was meant to be. We were supposed to meet at that point, at that moment. It's as if the road is
The-
discovered when you're ready or something like
yeah,
that. Like,
something like that. Like, yeah, yeah. Things will start appearing when you're ready for it.
yeah.
So
So that was it. Our connection was immediate, and we didn't need to do a lot of talking in order to know that we know the same things, that we are on the same wavelength, and we could kick off the conversation from a lot more of an advanced place.
yes, absolutely. And
I
so
love that.
we've been talking about that now, but it will be good to just talk a little bit about like the past a little bit. Like, we don't even know
Yeah.
your name, where you're at, and if you want to talk a little bit, because I want to talk about like what journeys are in life, and how journeys kind of change, and we also accept what our journey is. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't seem to make sense to others, but it makes sense to ourselves. So, I mean, if you can introduce a little bit about yourself. I also know, like, I would like you to address the fact that you are like in a different persona right now. When you speak sometimes on social media, you talk about your past life as, and then what you're doing now. So it would be beautiful just to see, to put you like in a frame of, not for a long time, I'm not going to frame you, but it's just to
Right.
have a little of grounding into like, okay, who are you? Who is Efrat? Like, what's up?
What's up? Okay, so I am right now speaking to you from Israel. This is where I live, and this is where I was born. I was born in 1980 here in Israel, and I've lived in Israel until I was 21. I went to Australia when I was 21 for 6 years. I was a student. I graduated from university there, and I stayed a few more years. And I met my boyfriend, who then became my fiance, my husband, and now my divorcee, and the father of my son. And he is now in Melbourne. And my son, who is almost 15 years old, his name is Eitan. He went to live with his father almost a year ago now. we got divorced when my son was 1 year old, and my ex-husband left to go back to Australia after we were in Israel together for 4 years. And so I stayed in Israel with the baby, all of a sudden finding myself as a single mom. And I never planned to be a single mom, someone that just raises a child on her own. I always thought that when I'll be a mother, I'll have, a partner and a support system. And I found myself with a huge challenge to recap on my early days. So I had grown up in Israel, and I was always a super curious human being. I loved performing and I loved being on stages. And if I didn't have a stage, I would create it. So I would, like my parents always say, and I remember that as well. I have really good memory from very early on. I would always wear all these costumes, and I would
Yes.
dress up as something, and I would take everyone that's in the house at that moment. It doesn't matter if it's the neighbor and my parents and my brothers and sisters, and I would put everyone on the sofa and I tell them, okay, now we have a performance. And I would perform something, dancing, singing, talking, whatever. And my sister, my older sister, which had probably recognized my verbal abilities quite early on, she started recording me,
Mm,
it's in the 80s. So we had like a double cassette.
yes.
And so she would plug in a microphone to the tape recorder, and she would record, and she would ask me questions. She would interview me because she saw that I wanted to speak. And we're like super,
Okay.
this is like me 4 years old, 5 years old. She would interview me. She would have a laugh. She would love it. Like she makes fun of me, but I don't know because I just want to perform. And so I think that, and another interesting point is that I started talking, like really talking, not just like baby talking, but talking when I was 8 months old. So, yeah, very early on. And my mom said that they didn't know how it's possible. And everyone around them were like, all the grown-ups were like, what the fuck? This is a phenomena. How come she's talking? She's 8 months old. And I would still be a baby and I would cry a lot. It's as if I wanted to do so much more that I could. So I was frustrated. So I was crying, but I was talking as well. And I would even go into the grown-ups conversations and say stuff. And they would be shocked. But I had very developed like verbal abilities very early on. It's as if I came here to like start talking straight away, to do things, to say stuff. Looking back now, I think, looking at my childhood, I would dance, I danced ballet and modern ballet, and I sang and I was writing and I loved school, I loved learning. I was always super curious. I always wanted to learn more, wanted to know more. I loved any type of activity that involved creating, drawing, painting, like arts, anything that would develop me. I felt like I came here to like do stuff and experience life and be fully self-expressed. I think when it started to change is when, obviously, when I went to the army when I was 18, and I spent 2 years in the army and I did intelligence work. And it's not like it wasn't interesting or whatever, but I just felt like that's not my calling.
What year was that, more or
That
less?
was 1998 to 2000 when I was 18.
Mind if we talk a little bit about what's the state of
Sure.
like of politically in Israel? Is are things a little
Yeah.
bit?
So in 1994 was the year when our prime minister, Yitzhak Rabin, was murdered. And that was a very significant event for me and for Israel in general, because I was going to a youth movement when I was young, and I saw myself as a peace lover and left wing in that sense. Like I always wanted peace with my neighbors, and my family was also of that notion of, we need to get along with our neighbors, and we need to live in a place where we can be safe and secure, that we get along with people rather than have wars and fight all the time. And see, because that time during the 90s we had horrible the Intifada and a lot of bombing attacks. Buses would blow up. It was not easy, like growing up and understanding what kind of reality I lived. And so in 1994, I was in Tel Aviv in the big uh, square where we had the peace protest, where Yitzhak Rabin was giving a speech and singing the song for peace, and then got off the stage and was shot and was murdered, right? And so obviously, the formal excuse for who killed Yitzhak Rabin is a right wing guy who's now still in jail, Igal Amir. But I'm not convinced of that because there are many loopholes in the stories of who killed him, and it could have been an inside job.
I want to talk a little bit about what it is growing up with a situation that is outside of your hands, where your nervous system has to adapt to different conditions. Because I grew up in Colombia in the 70s. Not
Yeah.
this well, but my God, the violence was big. And I remember we couldn't really think of the possibility of going out and having a walk, like for sure, because we would get robbed. People were like shooting. There was all these political parties that they didn't like each other, so they will take either guns or machetes and they will kill each other. It was quite violent, I have to say. The nervous system, I basically, my mom used to like allow us to go. We grew up in like a gated community, so we could actually be there, but we couldn't leave beyond. And then we had somebody drive us and take care of us. So in a way, it felt very guarded, but very real, because beyond those gates or beyond your senses or your instincts, there's always this moment that something horrible can happen. Then I moved to Paris, and during the years there were bombs every 5 minutes. So I have lived throughout my life with in places where, I mean, I had to learn how to regulate my nervous system, because you can't actually thrive creatively in a state of fear. So were you aware of that? I guess that, in a way you grew up with it, but I don't think there's such a thing as that you get used to it. What do you say?
It's not that you get used to it, you understand it, I think, and you develop to overcome it. And I will explain what I mean. But for that, I would have to tell you about the 80s, the 90s, but then again, 2014, which was another prominent event that would help me understand this again. So in the 80s, in my childhood, I would go around in the streets. I lived in the center of Israel. No problem. Like I would go on my own to the ballet class, would come back on my own, would take buses, would walk on my own to school. There was no issue with safety. I never felt anything. In the 90s, when things started heating up again, there were, as I said, like terror bombs on buses and things like that in the center of Israel. So then you'd start feeling a little less secure. Do I take the bus? What do I do? Is that it's like not normal? And I was never limited by my parents. They would give me all the freedom and the choice to do things, but I would be very responsible. So there would be certain things that I would not do. It didn't personally, it didn't create any fear within me or anxiety, where a lot of people it did. I think I was quite resilient. Like I wasn't afraid of it, but many people would not take buses. Many people would be really anxious, but I wasn't. But what it does do is that it teaches you that you, I mean, the propaganda of the media is constantly there to teach you. And it's not just the media, it's the school, it's the parents, it's the society, it's everyone talking about the fact that you have enemies. You have
Mhm.
people that want to kill you. And you see proofs of it when you see people dying in a bus bombing. So you believe that reality. You believe that you are in danger, in an existential threat all the time, and that impacts you. Now, as you said, it does impact your nervous system. For me personally, it impacted me less because I'm not a fearful person, and because I always felt safe. I always felt fine. I just knew to be cautious where I needed to be cautious. But then when I went to the army and I served in one of the intelligence forces, I was actually coming in contact with Palestinians on almost on a daily basis because of my service, which was right on the border of, it's called the Erez crossing between the Gaza Strip and Israel. So I would serve there, and I would do work that would allow me to see people and learn their stories and understand more of their life and how Israel is handling this situation of controlling the border and letting people come in because they have to come in to work. At that point, the Palestinians were relying on coming into Israel every day in the thousands because they had to work and get money and survive. Israel controlling those borders and supposed to like screen people and see if there are anyone that is related to a terrorist or anyone who is a terrorist, and they would be stopped and investigated. During those 2 years, I wasn't actually in the border, but I was like a supporting division to. Anyway, I saw enough and I understood a lot about the relationship between the two countries and about the life of Israelis versus life of Palestinians and how different they are, and the cultures and the privilege that we have versus the underprivilege that these people have. Like they are seriously underprivileged and dependent and reliant on another country to survive. And it's a very complex relationship because on the one hand they're relying on you. That's where they get their literally their money and their food, and they can support their families. And on the other hand, this country is like controlling them. So this double-edged sword, it's always very complex because on the one hand Israel is helping, on the other hand it is controlling. So it took me a while to kind of understand what's happening there, but in the end of my mandatory service I said, okay, I've seen enough, I understand a lot, I need to move on, I cannot stay here, because they wanted me to stay and work there, but I didn't want to do that anymore. It was enough for me. I said, okay, I got it. I cannot be with the hand on the pulse on when the next bombing attack is going to be, because that's what I knew. In my service, I did intelligence. I knew if there's now a threat for another invasion or bombing attack or something to happen, and where, more or less, in Israel or in the border or whatever. I knew so much and I didn't want to know. I preferred to, like, I'm only 20 years old. It's just not normal that a child 18 years old is exposed to so much, harsh information and reality on a daily basis. I think that people sometimes don't understand what soldiers are going through and why they develop their trauma.
They're still in the process of growing. There's some scientific research says that your brain ends up being developed by the age 35. So you're still in that process of getting information. So if you live the childhood or until you're a teenage, and then you go to the army, and then you absorb that information, that is going to shape every single decision. And I wanted to add something in parenthesis, that I observed this in my country, because we do have a lot of violence since the 50s. And so we develop a way of relating to one another through either uh, like a lot of jokes, bad jokes. We can be mean to one another, but it's on the border of bullying. I mean, it's borderline. I would say it's bullying at this point, but I don't like, because I used to do that
Yeah.
too. So it is interesting because bullying comes out of fear,
Mm,
comes out of control. So, and all
right.
that
So that's
coming,
that's definitely a trait of Israelis as well.
yes, that's what I want to say. But this is the beautiful thing, is like when you take that veil of fear, what you have is a soul that doesn't know how to connect
How to
in
deal.
another
Yeah.
way, because it's been taught to be afraid, it's been taught to retaliate, it's taught to say we're the victims, they're the bad ones. And I'm not putting
Exactly.
myself any side here, because both,
Yeah,
but people
sure.
are like, I grew up with siblings, we just used to just like kill each other.
Yeah.
Mom, he killed me. No, but
Yeah.
I don't know
Very
how
violent.
many children don't die every day in the playground, because you're like killing. So it's a little bit of that. Yeah,
Right.
and
So yeah. So first of all, I agree with what you said before that that young age is designed that way so that we can still be molded and controlled and do whatever the state needs us to do. And that's why we're recruited when we're 18 and it
absolutely.
goes until today. So these are very young kids that are going to the army to do things that if they were older, they may say no to. So that's by design. That's first of all. Secondly, about the societal behavior that is being developed out of living in such um, a condition of constant threat. Some of it is real. Some of it is being inflated or propagated by the state all the time. The One of the traits that Israelis have is they say on themselves, they say, I'm not a sucker. Like it really means it's very significant for Israelis to know that they have not been fooled or manipulated. They're not suckers. They see everything. They're very smart. They're very direct. Like you can't fool me. I'm not a sucker. It's a very common thing to say, especially when you're young. Like you think you're tricking me, and that kind of toughness and even cockiness is there to disguise the fact that you are being artificially, I think, pushed to grow so fast when you are 18 and you are then being put out there in the field seeing all these things, knowing all these things, or doing all these things that are quite harsh on an 18-year-old soul. So you develop this toughness, right? And you want to prove to everyone around you that you're not a sucker, that you cannot be fooled. You know what I mean?
but there's a moment that some certain souls, thank God, or whoever is there, that they actually with time kind of like flourish into the understanding that that's not the truth, and you can be one
Right.
of them.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. And I think that for me it was a gradual process. It wasn't straight away when I left the army, although there was a trigger there when I knew, okay, I've had enough of that life. I don't need that reality anymore. I want to start something else. And that's why I went to Australia and studied there and wanted to stay there. It's as if life felt a lot more sane in Australia than it did in Israel. And I couldn't really put my finger on it because I was too young, but it just felt more normal. It didn't feel that demanding, that crazy. Israel really has a wild pace that most people
I think
don't understand. It's in the energy. When you come here, you actually, especially people like you feel it. You feel
I
the
know
dense energy and very fast pace.
I've been there a couple of times in my
Oh,
youth,
okay.
and I have to say that I'm not against it right now, but I was pro-Israeli like from the moment I landed. Um, it's the beautiful land. It's beautiful. I saw you put pictures the other day of the sea, and there's something so
It's
beautiful about the.
beautiful.
It's just as beautiful, and even the desert and everything. So I did go around, and I was always very curious about the history. And I have to admit, I was very ignorant on the other side, on the Palestinian side, because I grew up also being told and looking at the papers about the PLO, all this like terrorists. And I remember saying that they were the first people who were hijacking people on planes. So I grew up with that terror of, ooh, what if you get on a plane, you get, and then people say, don't worry, as long as you don't go over there, that's not going to happen to you. But now that I think about it, 50 years ago, who would have thought that we would be living in a state of terror everywhere in the world right now?
Right.
This kind of like expanded. It's not the
Right.
same every day in Israel or in Palestine, but we're really a terrorized civilization right now.
100%. And I think that, like many other things in life, for some reason, Israel is like an important energetic center in the world, that a lot of things start here and being experimented here and then being spread out to the rest of the world in some way. This is one of them, the terror. Now, as Israelis, if I speak for a second as a collective rather than as me, the individual, I think that if I can characterize this collective, the Israeli people, or yeah, the Israeli people, the Israeli society. And it's very obviously, it's a generalization. Not everyone is the same. I get that. But the narrative that we grow up with from the moment we are, mature enough to learn something, which is normally age 5, 6, 7 years old, is that we are a little country, a small country surrounded by enemies. That's the first narrative. So the first thing you think of, just imagine as a child, you see a map, right? You know where you are on the map, and you see the countries around you, and you're being taught that all of these countries around you, Lebanon, Syria,
And he,
Jordan, Egypt, right? And obviously Gaza Strip with the complication of it, all of them are against us. Okay, that's the first narrative you're growing up with. And then the second narrative is we, throughout history, not just now in Israel, but throughout history, everyone in the world were trying to kill the Jewish people. And we are being chased, and we're under existential threat. So not only that you feel that where you live in your own country surrounded by enemies, you also know that your ancestors have been chased no matter where it was in the world, and no matter the reasons, no matter who started it, whatever. That's the reality. You're always under you're always a minority that is being someone's out to get you. And so you grow up with sensation of an existential threat, and you have to be, because that's like your only alternative, you have to be grateful for the fact that you have this little piece of land that was given to us in 1948. Thank you, whoever gave it to us, because now we have a safe haven, not just us Israelis, but all Jewish people around the world. You have a safe haven where you can trust that you will be safe here, and everything you need will be taken care of by this state, the state of Israel. So that's the reality that you're being growing up with. You're supposed to trust that
and
state that is your big brother and is going to take care of everything you need. And you have the evidence from 1948 to now, when the inception of Israel, you have the evidence that the state indeed is developing this place, is doing things for you, is helping you, is like supposed to be functioning like a normal state.
very important question that relates to you and everything. So, in one of the chapters of the book that I wrote about language and programming and AI because I was interested in AI. So I went back and, as Bitcoiners, most of the people who start with the history of money, the Federal Reserve, and when you start going down the rabbit hole, you start unlocking truth and you go, what? This is not true. This is not true. This is not true. There's a part of your history where you were using language to sell stuff.
Yeah.
And this is very important because part of the deconditioning of the reality that we were taught, and it's not about being victim that they gave us this and we shouldn't have, because I don't like to point fingers like that. I like to understand that I too was fooled by my own ancestors. It's not because they wanted me to be fooled, it's just the way they were fooled and so on and so forth. So we just like, I'm kind of like taking the thread of Ariane and going and undoing the labyrinth to see where I'm going to go. And the more I pull, the more it's like, oh my God, the stories goes further and further back. So the interesting thing about language and about programming and about truth and about history and about fear and about defense and about victimhood and about oppression. And then we can talk about socialism, communism,
Right.
fascism. I mean, I
Right.
lately that everything is so much connected to the same yarn. And
Yes.
wherever I want to go, it's just like I'm pulling. So I kind of like arrive to the place where it's like start being with the stick and I go, holy shit. And it's
Yeah.
incredible because I said, so what do I do? Of course, you cry for 20 minutes or 30, and then you go, okay, since all this started with programming, language is very important. The language of what we're going to do from here on. And that's when I want you to, tap into what you were doing and what is the future of that language. How can we get all this programming on an individual basis that can actually take an effect into our surrounding? I mean, you can take your passport and throw it to the water, say, I don't like being Israeli, but you basically are not
No.
doing from that perspective of the past. And
Right.
maybe it's a
I
little
will
bit.
try to answer. It's quite difficult, but I will try to answer. But before I do that, I just want to say that, first of all, people that will listen to this up to this point may say, oh, she's Israeli, she's Jewish, but she speaks like she hates the country, or she just talks about the bad things. Obviously I don't. First of all, I respect where I come from and who I am, and my ancestors and everything, and it's okay to be critical about it and to see things as what they are. Just observe how we are being brought up and educated and propagated, versus taking everything with no critical thinking. So I am very critical, and it's okay to be critical. If I wasn't critical, I wasn't able to change my reality and to continue even living here. That state of existential threat and fear is weaved into the lives of Israelis all the time. Well, I'm 44, but I know that it's, since the inception of this place, constantly, because there's always a war, there's always something going on. It's ongoing and it's never ending. And I think this is a perfect recipe to keep a whole collective, a whole society in a perpetual state of fear and victimhood, because they always think that someone's out to get there, and they're always ready for the next crisis to come. And when the next crisis does come, and it does every few years or months, if it's now, it's like months, it's crazy, or weeks, even depending on the period, then they are so drilled to behave a certain way. Like the Israelis, the collective, we know what to do in a state of emergency and crisis. That's why we are so good at reacting very quickly. COVID happened, everything was happening so fast here. Boom, lockdowns, boom, restrictions. The state says this, everyone's complying, da da da. Like, people here are like robots when it comes to a state of emergency, because we are highly, highly programmed.
They're soldiers. Men and women
We're
are soldiers.
soldiers. We're soldiers, definitely.
Army. And
Definitely.
not in a bad way. That means you can organize people like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say that it's interesting is that that's one thing that got me so much, because I went to Israel around when I was 20, and it was because a friend from Israel. She was a girl. She is a girl, and she had to go to the army. And I was like, "What? You got to go?" And so even the women have to experience that, and that changes society. Before, men wanted to go and die, and women stay and build. But here is like the whole sacrifice or offering is equally. And
Yeah,
that
everyone takes part. And that's a very socialistic thing in the state. It's a very communistic, socialistic thing. Everyone has to come in. And that's also a very efficient tactic for divide and conquer, because then you have very efficient agents inside the country turning against other people when they are not putting their part.
because the family is the nation and not this
Right.
unit.
Exactly. Like, people now will really incite and complain and be very violent towards ultra Orthodox Jews that are not serving the army, because why am I serving and you're not serving? So you have to come in and serve as well. And if you don't, you have to go to jail or something. That, like, those are voices that you can hear. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay that some groups in society will have privileges that others don't, but think of the idea of what you're saying: coerce everyone, instead of saying no coercion. This should be voluntary. If you want me to go to the army, do a voluntary army. People will get paid. It's like a job, like in the US, like in many other countries. You don't have to coerce, not me and not you, and I don't have to coerce you. But instead, everyone's coercing everyone. You know how fucked up that is, right? So anyway, I'm going back to just the existential threat to just finish off with that. 2014, more or less, we had another kind of mini war, an operation. It was called Tsukaitan, my son's name, funnily enough. At that period of time, there were a lot of missiles attacks in 2014, and my son was 5 years old, and I was driving. We were at home a lot because of the missiles, and he was so young, and I wanted to take him out. I wanted to do things with him, so I decided that I'm going to visit a friend, and I did. And I was driving, and he was at the back of the car. We spent a few hours there, and on the way back, he fell asleep. And then halfway through to my house, there's a siren going off. So I stopped my car. It's on the highway. There are hardly any cars because of the missiles. No one is driving. I was like the only crazy one. Go to the back of the car. I take him on my hands and I go to hide in the side of the road. He's sleeping and the sirens are so loud, but he doesn't wake up. Missiles coming on top of my head. One of the missiles was the Iron Dome to come and like attack the other missile. So there was an attack right above my head, and I'm with my kid like in my arms. And I'm like, fuck this shit, this crazy country that I live in. Like I've got a 4-year-old in my hands. I've got missiles over my head and he's still asleep and he's not waking up. What the fuck is happening here? This is like the weirdest thing. And so it's over and you're supposed to like hide for like 10 minutes after it happens because of the debris, but I decided to just keep driving. So I put him back in the car and he's asleep the whole time. Go back to the car and I start driving to my house. I think I'm fine because I handled the situation. This is how programmed I am and how my body is used to these situations. So I'm driving, I'm holding the wheel, and I see that my hands are like shaking. And I'm like, fuck, this really did impact me. I didn't think it did, but it did. Like physically, my body was reacting to this crazy crisis. But I just realized how fucked up my reality is and the reality of all Israelis are in this place. And I think that after this time, and then COVID came, and I understood during COVID how many things that were being taught are lies and how many lies we're being lied to by the state, by the government, by the world, by so many people. And I started like uncovering all of these lies, finding more and more lies, not just about COVID, but then about the history and about climate, about the army, about so many things. Started waking up big time 2020 to 2024 now. When war happened after COVID, I was not afraid anymore. Whenever there's a siren, I don't have that condition anymore. I don't get anxious. I'm not afraid. This is why when I did the podcast episode with Robert Bridlove and I told him, listen, if there's a siren going off while we speak, I'm just going to keep going because if it's my day to go, it's my day to go. And I'm not afraid and I don't care. And he was like, whoa, what is this? First of all, I think half of this thing that we're seeing in the sky is it's orchestrated and it's not really missiles. It's like Iron Dome attacking itself, or it's like fireworks just to keep people afraid. I really think that they're lying about a lot of that. Obviously, not all of it. Obviously, there are some legitimate attacks that happen here and there, but I refuse to live in fear anymore. I chose to live here in this crazy reality, in this crazy place. Then I want to let go of the fear and live a normal life, normal as much as I can in my environment, in my house, with my friends, with my loved ones, and not be like a zombified programmed robot that just has a knee-jerk reaction to everything
So
that is happening.
is there a moment where you realize that that fear of change is that the story when you're driving with your son, or something else in particular? Like,
No, it's during COVID. The moment there when I realize how much I am conditioned by fear is when I face fear head on during COVID, when people start calling me name and start threatening to, not let me into places and discriminate against me because of
was
what
it,
I choose to do. In the safe haven, in the place that I'm Jewish, I'm supposed to be it's the safest place in the world for me, right?
I'm your
But
people.
My people, that's what my grandparents were promised when they came from the Holocaust. They were promised that they have a safe haven here. And
This is because you were one of the rare breeds that we are, that you decided by evolution not to be part of the vaccine.
exactly. I decided not to participate in any experiment anymore. I decided that I'm healthy enough to go through whatever health threat there is. I will be fine to handle it in my natural way, and I don't need the help of any external pharmaceutical to go through it, right? And so, yeah, I stood up and I said, I'm not taking this. This is not for me. And I had to sacrifice my reputation, my job, my friends. I went through a lot of hard stuff, like ridiculed, being called names. People don't know I was like a highly, highly successful chief marketing officer of startup companies, global companies, making lots and lots of money, had like 15 people in my team, 250 people in my company. I was one of the C-level executives in a management of 6 VPs and C-levels, and was reporting directly to the CEO. And I was like willing to put all of that on the line in order to withhold my integrity, my morals, and my values, and speak out for people that can't.
And it's beautiful. I really appreciate that you do that for yourself, because that's also a gift to humanity. I have changed the word sacrifice for offering. You offered what you did. Basically, you offered because the most important thing for you, I believe, or I think, or I can sense, something that I feel in tune with, is your freedom. Because freedom is the most valuable thing that I have in my life.
Yep.
Everything around that. So no matter what degree of position, amount of money, commission, like whatever, like reputation, it cannot be equivalent to the idea of, as a soul, you have the power to assign the value what you think is important, what your needs are, because value is subjective. So at the very end, I think that a lot of what's happening is that, and we're gonna get into Bitcoin, is like as souls, and many of the Bitcoiners, I have this theory, they have a lot of Aquarius in their charts. They basically start resonating with the idea of freedom, but not freedom like, oh, I want to be free. I want to do, I want to, run naked in the neighborhood. Yeah, I always say that freedom is the possibility to have different choices. Choice is like, I start going like, wait, something's wrong here. Am I only supposed to do this? Let me try to find another way and just compare if this is what I need at the moment. I feel like as Bitcoiners, again, slash with Aquarius and a lot of Uranian, Promethean energy, it's like we know in our souls, we know in our like imprint, in our DNA, that this is the right thing to do.
Right.
And now we start recognizing it, and we can verbalize it because we see through the lies, we see through the programming, we see through the scam of what that thing was in 2020, and we see through what they're trying to do.
Right.
And this is what I find so amazing, because I bet, and I want to ask you this, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my COVID thing. Even though you're in the middle of that, like people hammering you with their stupid opinions, because you didn't even ask them for the opinion, but they come, hey, and then they start threatening you. You're not going to have this, you're not going to have that. And then all of a sudden, your heart and your soul knows that what you're hearing, it becomes this noise, and you go like, whew. And then you say, okay, I'm going to offer myself the possibility of being free, because that's why I call it an
100%.
offering. You say, I am going to be free. This is a choice, and I'm going to give myself that choice. It's like,
wow. Exactly. And that's why when people ask me this question, and you're 100% right about the poor choice of word sacrifice, what are the prices that you paid for it? You paid a price. And my mom says that as well. I always correct them and I say, I did not pay a price. This was the biggest gift for me. Right? Because for the first time ever, it woke up the lion within me. I had all these traits and skills and abilities, and what I told you about, everything that I was born with, it was as if it was meant to be triggered and operated at that moment to say, fuck this bullshit, fuck this programmed life, this is not the life that I'm meant to live. I'm meant to live a life of complete joy, self-expression, and freedom.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to comply with any of that bullshit anymore for the rest of my life, not just now in COVID, forever.
And also, you're going to inspire so many people because you're not going to, you're already embodying freedom. And I want to come, I know I'm asking you things so you can choose however. So you have a podcast that is called Voices. This space, and this one, I think that life is so beautiful. I call it Voices. You have a lot of planets in the third house, me too. So in a way, I also was like speaking in very early on and crying a lot. So I always laugh and say I had so much to say that I like drove everybody crazy. The interesting thing is this: when you already find your own voice because you make an offering in your life to become you, no matter what, then it becomes so beautiful to be able to invite other people to speak up because you're no longer afraid of having anybody take away anything from you. That's what I feel for my part. Like I feel like so open to meet people.
Yes.
I'm not inviting everybody. You have to kind of pay a bouncer in the door that's going to put a mirror. I don't know if I told you this story. I used to live in Paris in the 80s. I used to go to the discotheque, douche or something like that. And then I would try to get into the discotheque, and the guy will give me a mirror, or
Put a
he will,
mirror.
would you let yourself in? And you're like, fuck you. Something like that. It's like, are you sure you want to come in? Because this is hardcore. We're doing a lot of independent, true situation here.
Exactly. That's why I say it's not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. Yeah, people try to make me more accessible for the like the common normie. And I said, I'm not for everyone. I'm for the ones who choose,
Yes.
who want to see things, who want to wake up.
Yeah.
I can be too hardcore for them. So you have to know who you introduce me to, like who you send my stuff to, because you may threaten them, right? With my energy and with my messaging, etc. So you got to be careful at how you do that. But I think that what I love about what you said, yeah, I my podcast is called You're the Voice, and the moment I understood that I don't need to be like anyone else. I just have to rediscover myself because everything is in there. And I went through a process of about, I think, close to like 2 years, a year and a half of like reconnecting to my inner child and spending more time in my, imagination back in my childhood and re-evaluating what are my essence, my signature, my values, everything that I care about, everything that I love, everything that I'm inspired by, and bring that back into my reality now. The moment I felt mature enough inside that process, I didn't have any need anymore to be like anyone else or to do something that someone else is doing. It was just about bringing my voice, because then it's as if I discovered my voice, and I don't need anyone to like it, to want to be like me, to follow me, to subscribe to me, to if they do, it's cool because then, it helps my work, but I don't need that. It's not something that if I don't have it, it is going to define who I am. I don't need any approval from the outside world to be who I am. I have everything in me. The center is so strong. It's so connected. It's great. Like, all right. So now I'm ready to be in service of humanity. Because it's not about me anymore. I know who I am. Okay, I got it. Yeah, it
And
will develop with time. I will,
yeah,
I enjoy being with myself. I love spending time with myself. At last, I can go on
young.
my own to travel. Like in the past, I cannot spend time with myself. I was horrible. Like now, I love being with myself. I'm like my best friend. I have another friend now. And so it's not about me anymore. I'm fine. Now it's about you. Now I can be who I am so that you can discover who you are. So that's why the podcast is called You're the Voice, because your voice matters. And now you need to find your voice because you want to have a better life. And if you find your voice, then it's so easy.
I love the way you use the word service. That's a very Virgo energy. You have quite a bunch of things in it. Virgo, I do too. And but you can't be humble and be of service if you don't know how to validate your own creativity. That's a Leo. thing. And so it took me a while. I actually started saying during the pandemic, I am of service. It just came through, and people would look at me like, like that meme of the guys looking like that, like
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah. I had the same thing. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm being of service. And people were like, oh, because I always have this download. So it says like, I'm no longer seeking truth. I embody my own perspective. And people were like, what did you say? And I was like, I don't know, it just came down. And then I started like contemplating what was it, all the information that I was getting. Because I am a very deep meditator. And so I allow like all the book is just kind of like a whole stream of consciousness. And that's why I have an editor. The interesting thing is like when I found that out and I started contemplating and I said, oh, this means that right now I'm at that stage where I actually feel so in harmony with my inner child. That I did do that during COVID. COVID was very important for me because that's when I realized that I have to leave the matrix. Months after it started, I have many friends in China and also in Italy. So I knew what was going on, and they were already taking a lot. So I used to talk to them. They were already confined, but the United States wasn't. So I kind of knew for a month before, and I'm not scared. I just want to be informed. I'm not scared, but
Yeah.
I want possibility. So I went to the drugstore and I bought gloves and mask, and people were like, I wanted to buy a whole box, and the lady wouldn't sell me the whole box because they only have one. And I went into a fight with her and I said, I want to and she was like, what are you talking about? I said, there's this thing. And she goes, oh, please. She just like complete. And I said, I'll pay you double because I wanted to make, I didn't know what it was, right? So I did. Okay. So it came very fast in New York. In New York, it spread
I
like,
know.
I don't know, like boom,
Yeah.
like, and I immediately went into, I don't have health insurance. I don't believe in that. I am quite healthy. But at the time I used to drink a lot of wine because, hey, wine is nice. But I knew immediately, like, I cannot keep up with the wine. Although the funny thing was that I had bought a lot of cases because I used to buy the good wine. So I had a lot of wine in my house. I'm confined by myself. Nobody else. So I started doing Zooms with all my friends, like, oh, let's have a glass of wine. And then I started realizing that I'm like drinking a lot. This is like 1 month. I probably downed the whole bottles in a month. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, oh, this is very foolish because wine or alcohol contains a lot of sugar. So I made a resolution. I said, I'm going to start taking care of myself. I know how to do it. So I switch everything. Actually, in 2 months or 3 months, I lost 30 pounds. The amount,
Wow.
like I changed my diet. I went back
Wow.
completely low carb. Like, okay, we got to do this because I don't see that this is going to be a pretty picture. Because I saw already that there was no way that I could have freedom. They were
Right.
to go to the park, but there were circles. That day, I almost died. There were circles around the park where you couldn't be outside of the circle. I went to the park to get some air by the river, and I'm seeing people complying, and I am crying. I said, I am not going to die here. I am not going to die in New York. So I remember coming back home and praying and saying, please just send me a sign. Within, I think, a week or so, I got a very vivid dream that said, you got to move to Miami this date. I also do
Wow.
astrology. So I had to check and I was like, oh shit, this date is really important. And I said, but wait, Miami, I don't want to drive because I really don't want to drive. And it says, Miami Beach, dummy. And I was like, yo, that's good. So within 3 weeks, I was here. That was for you.
Fantastic.
It was easy for me to leave the matrix in that sense because I was already like the last 5 6 years in New York, I was already fed up. I had figured out that everything was a lie. I couldn't stand the phoniness of everything. Everything was fake. I'm not that kind of person. I'm very intense, so I cannot even fake it. Even if I try to fake it, it just doesn't feel good. It's like you can
Yeah.
tell. So it took me like the first 2 years, I was very intense by myself here in Miami, and I devoted my time to studying Bitcoin, Australian. I became a student of trauma. I became a student, and I wouldn't see people because people didn't want to see me because I didn't have the vaccine. I have friends in Miami before, and I was like, oh, cool. You don't want to see me? Perfect. I have more time for me. So that's when I became completely all about me, but not in a selfish way, actually, like in a very individuated way. And that's when I started writing the book because I started integrating all the Monikas, inner child,
Amazing.
all the stuff. So, yeah. How
I
was
want to, I have to add one more thing that I forgot, and it's very relevant to what we were talking about. In 2021, I went to walk on the beach, just like
yeah,
you, in Tel Aviv. And all of a sudden, I see a bench on the beach. They're very big benches, green benches that are designed for tourists. So they have English writing on them. And it said reserved for vaccinated only. And I stand in front and I stand in front of those benches, and then I get a flashback, you say?
yeah.
A flashback to a memory that is not mine, that is my grandparents, my grandfather. My grandfather was, he told me when he was, I think, 12 or 13 years old, he was a teenager in Belgium before the Second World War started. It was in the 30s, 1930s. He's walking around the park, and then he stops because he sees a bench in the park. And the bench says, not for Jewish people, not for Jews. Right. And to me, at that moment, when I'm across the road from the beach in Tel Aviv, I get the flashback to my grandfather. And I'm like, fuck this shit. This is the biggest lie. They told my grandfather, and they told me, and they told all of us Israelis that this is the safe haven, that you will always be safe here in your country, that you will never be experiencing the horrors of the Holocaust. And here you are in your own safe haven, and you're being discriminated against because of something you chose or not chose to do with your body, or because of the color of your skin, or because of your ethnicity, or whatever. This is a fucking racist country, and it always has been. Every time it gets a different manifestation, right? Sometimes it's COVID, sometimes it's ethnicity, whatever. There are always excuses for it. And most people will never admit it, and most people will never see it. But I see it, and I'm going to speak about it because this is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. And whenever I would compare what was happening during COVID to what was happening during the Holocaust, I would get so much shit from Israelis.
I
And
think
I didn't give a fuck. And I'm like, you're fucking blind, and you are a hypocrite because you do not admit that what has been done to you, you are now doing to others. And this is obviously now repeating with the Gaza war and everything. We're just killing and killing and killing. So people that live in a constant state of victimhood will then inflict pain and control over others to feel good about themselves because they feel like they're victims and they need to feel better about themselves.
thank you for sharing this because I think this is one of the most important things that we said today, in the sense that you as a soul have been able to experience the same energy in two different ways, through your grandfather, through being raised in a country where, like, you're, as you say, you're safe, but you have to protect yourself because there's bad people outside. But then when you have that sense of safety and you have a personal choice, not a collective one, and then we're going to go back to like what the mess up information about when you grow up in a collectivist environment or socialist, communist, whatever. Right now we have woke. I mean, we have so many definitions. So the interesting thing is, like, this kind of environments don't want an individual to stand up and say, I have a choice, I have freedom. So you're able to see and discern from one to the other because your freedom is more important than what is supposed to be good for the rest, because you have to, again, I'm going to use the word in the proper way, sacrifice yourself for the good of the community. And this is obviously very present in Israel. It is becoming very present everywhere. And COVID was a thing for everybody. Like, I was blamed for killing everybody's. Apparently, I killed a lot of grandparents. Not that I
Me too.
direct.
Yeah, we killed a lot of grannies.
Yeah, it's like I unplugged everybody just with my, I mean, I'm so strong. I unplugged everybody. I have so many powers. So this is the interesting thing. And this is why I think sometimes it is a little bit I don't want to say like impossible, but a lot of Bitcoiners would, mean, we all are educators in a way, because we believe that, and we trust that the network and everything that stands for Bitcoin, I call it state of consciousness, it's going to meet you where you're at. So if you're not ready to act upon your freedom, you will not get it, because you have the choice to choose whatever they feed you with, whether it's shit, lies, whatever. Because if you're afraid of having the courage, which you do have a lot, to go and speak up and say, and you're not only speaking up, you're actually taking action.
Yeah, I did. I tagged the Tel Aviv municipality on that day on Twitter, and I told them what the fuck you doing, and they apologized, and I took a screenshot of it. I have it forever and ever, and they said, "Oh, we were wrong for saying that, blah blah blah." And obviously, they continued everywhere in Israel after that. But
But it's
at
very
least
important.
I did something.
I speak a little bit about Promethean fire, because the fire that we have is the light that we have inside that makes us see our truth. So when you can see your truth, there's no stopping you. There's no incentive that is different other than your feeling of you're doing the right thing for you, for your freedom. You will be led by that fire. You will be individuated. You will do whatever it takes. And most of the times when we do these things are not like because we're upset. Actually, the anger can be channeled in a creative way.
Exactly.
You go like, what the
Exactly.
fuck? And then you go, all right, I'm gonna put the thing, I'm gonna do this, and then it's gonna take me to another level.
Exactly.
So I see that, and I really appreciate the story, because it is almost like you arrive to a place, like you're born in the 80s. Israel has been alive for 40, a little bit 30 years, something like that. We go fast forward another 40 years. Now we see after 80 years, kind of like I don't know if you're familiar with the fourth turning. I'm
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of, I do a lot of research and write. There's a bunch of stuff in the book about it, like the cycles and how we're repeating. And we don't really repeat, but we have opportunities to have the same kind of energy emerge. So if
Right.
you observe that energy, actually, that's when you make a choice to go different. So, for instance, your choices that you're doing for yourself are actually somehow, and I really believe in that, they're altering the direction of your country, because you are liberating yourself. So you're
Yes.
getting out of the jail or whatever, like and then more people are going to, and that's what's going to change humanity, is that we are courageous enough. If we can't, I mean, whoever's sitting down right now waiting to be called for action is like, change the channel. You don't have to wait. You have to actually go and do it. And you have to do something heroic. You have to confront the most difficult thing. You have to
Exactly.
confront fear, and you go,
Yeah.
like, I studied Zen with Thich Nhat Hanh, and he used to say, like, to the fears, like, come, little fear, would you like to have a cup of tea? And then you invite the fear, and you talk to the fear, like, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? And the fear's like, well, and you go, I have an idea. I'm going to send you to my neighbor. She's probably waiting for you, or he's waiting for you. And I'm just going to do with this thing differently. I don't need you. And the fear goes like, yeah, party pooper. And oh, so, it goes, because you just say, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
See you already know, okay, so this was going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. And then you live your life. And other fears will come, and you just like a
Exactly.
martial artist going doom 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 like that. So I think it's
And then
very
at one point, you really feel like Neo in the Matrix. I
oh,
felt like time is slowing down and all this shit is being thrown at me, and I can just pick up the bullet and go.
yeah, totally. You do a lot of Tai Chi. I was trained by a Tai Chi master in New York for 2 years. And the interesting thing, I went there because I have memories of other lives in China, so connected to that energy. And I wanted to just, since I was 6, I wanted to be, again, like, let's do Kung Fu, like, but because it's just so beautiful. And I remember like meeting him, and he was like, you're here for a reason, but it's not the reason that you think you're here for. And I was like, oh, party pooper, what is it he goes, I'm going to train you with Tai Chi, but what you're here for is to train your mind, because you're going to see through the reality. And I was very well trained by him. And the funny thing is, the day that I stopped being his disciple was the morning before I left my marriage. He basically called me. We had an appointment. We used to see each other pretty regularly. And he says, your work is done. And I was like, what? He goes, your work is done. I don't want you to come back anymore. This is not a rejection letter, like email. This is to let you know that you are being more than ready. You're prepared. You're a little warrior. And I was like, no, but he goes, no, please try not to contact me because you're on your own. And months later, he still received something, a newsletter. And he did write me a letter saying, I am so proud of you. I always knew you could do it, but if I let you stay under my wing, you would never have taken the step. And that happens to me with many teachers because I do study with teachers. They basically, there's a moment they just like unplug me, and I'm like, "Whoa, where are you going?" And they go, "Bye." All right, I do it. So it's a very beautiful thing. I think it's also has given me a lot of humility to be able to be learning from other teachers and get the transmission from them, and then kind of have the experience. So that when I speak up, it's not just me; it's the wisdom that comes through me.
Yeah, 100%. Ah, this is so beautiful. Okay, so
We're gonna close a little bit, so I want to see. I mean, we could talk for hours, and we have so many
we
subjects.
can talk for hours, but maybe we'll plug this back to like Bitcoin maybe and
Yes,
what it
maybe. We did very interesting is like knowing a little bit about you and like who you are as a person, also a little bit like what you're carrying in your soul. The history is so important. Bitcoin is it's something for me, it's a state of consciousness. So even the fact that when you contact me, I knew you were a Bitcoiner was like we skipped that, but then we connected in other levels, like the way we're speaking right now, more spiritually and more in a sense of like understanding that there's an evolution. So I'm very
Mhm.
interested in evolution, and with the moons that we have, that's the only way. There's no way of evolving without not confronting. This is Scorpio moon.
Exactly. There are no shortcuts.
There's no shortcut, so you're going to be immersed in it in a way that it's going to show you the way. So we cannot predict the future, but I will ask you and then I'll tell you about me. Like, in terms of where we are right now, are you feeling that there's a positive outcome, or what do you feel that it's missing? Like, what is it about Bitcoin? And I know you're already doing, you have the podcast, you are a constant speaker in many conferences, and things are just growing that way, and you're offering yourself as a service to be able to connect to other people. The adoption of Bitcoin goes further and further.
Yeah, if I didn't believe that this is something that could support us in the transformation that we are going through as humanity, I would not put my life into it. Right? This is, for me, this is, it's not that I quit my life for Bitcoin. I don't want it to sound that way because it's not about that. It's about being there for people. But I think that Bitcoin is an amazing support mechanism to take humanity into a new reality that doesn't exist today and that didn't exist for hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. We live in a very long history of oppression and
Labor.
control, mind control and physical control of certain, species or certain people over other people in
Mhm.
humanity. And this is a cycle that has to come to an end. Now, it may be not everywhere, it may be not at once, it may be very long, it may be a start of a journey, a new chapter in the book of humanity. I don't know. I certainly don't know as much as you because I don't have, the assistance of the stars to help me. This is just like my intuition and my learning so far that is telling me that humanity is starting a new chapter, has the opportunity or the choice to step into another timeline and another reality in which liberty and freedom can be embraced in a much more meaningful and significant way, not just by writing this in some bill of rights or a constitution or something like that, but by actually harnessing and embracing an individual freedom and a spiritual awakening for many, many people on earth. And so Bitcoin for me is the perfect tool to support us in that, because if Bitcoin is money, and money is like the oxygen we breathe, because it's the tool with which we can communicate, with which we can partner, with which we can achieve things in life, right? Everyone knows that money is the enabler of advancement, of relationships, of communications, of progress. And so if Bitcoin is money, then, and it has different rules than the current system of money that we have. And those rules are supporting integrity, they are supporting predictability, they are supporting sovereignty and individuality. Then this is like the perfect tool to support us in this evolution of human consciousness and transformation of control versus freedom. So I that's why I'm in Bitcoin, and that's why I teach people about it or talk about it and put it out there so that they can discover it and join, because I really think that if we embrace it for, and I know it's a very hard ask because it's complicated and it's not as easy to learn, you know, it's not like learning about nutrition or learning about, I don't know, it's like it's a lot more complicated. You do have to understand quite a few different topics of life or different areas of expertise in order to get it, to really get it, and you do have to put in the time. And we are asking for a lot because we are in a time where we are bombarded with crises and emergencies and you know, shit shows everywhere that is designed to distract us from being able to learn anything new and develop. So it's as if you're pushing against the current, you're going against the wind. That's why everyone that comes into Bitcoin today, I seriously, like, hats off, well done. It takes so much to actually be able to. So and that's why I think that people, there's a lot of correlation between red pilling and waking up through COVID and orange pilling and waking up to the lies of money and embracing Bitcoin, because you normally make a change in your life and want to learn something new when like we said, when you're facing your fears and you are experiencing a crisis or an emergency, and then you have to do like a drastic change in your life. And
Mm.
if you have a nice solution being presented to you when you're coming out from that wave that you've dived into, then and you embrace it and you start learning it out of need, out of despair, out of hardship, out of, you know, out of depression, maybe whatever it is that you're going through, then you are going to not just come out of a crisis, but you're going to come out a different person and learn something new and better your life and improve your situation. And that's always the gift of a crisis, right? Whenever we face with a breakdown or a crisis, we have an opportunity to grow, and Bitcoin is that opportunity to grow personally, individually, financially, and mindfully, right? If you embrace it, and spiritually, if you really embrace it as a tool for your life. So yeah, it's not like a religion, like a be all and end all, but it's a beautiful tool and mechanism to support us in what we're going through right now. And when I sit down and I imagine life 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now, with that in place, if it works out and if it succeeds, I'm happy. I'm optimistic. I'm like, bring it on. This is perfect. I want to live until I'm 150 years old just to be able to see what life is going to be like if we are on a Bitcoin standard. This is how hopeful I am. And I want my son to have a beautiful life and reality in which there is no money that can use people and abuse them and create more wars and create more conflicts and steal from the poor and give to the wealthy, etc., etc. I want my son to live in an environment where he can be proud of what he's doing, he can be self-sustained, he can be productive, he can be rewarded for what he's doing in a fair way, and he can trust that what he has is going to stay his and no one's going to steal it away from him slowly or fast, doesn't matter, taxation or inflation, it's just going to be his, period. So I'm really hopeful for a future like that, and that's what I hold in my mind when I do what I do, because that's like something worth getting up in the morning for.
Oh, this is beautiful. It's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to close a little bit by saying, well, nobody knows where the future is, but I do feel deeply that we're in for the battle of the galaxies right now, because what Bitcoin shows the people who actually stand up and take action and study and immerse themselves in the history of money. And when you go there down that rabbit hole, you understand that a lot, if not all of the problems of the current era are based on the idea that we've been lied to. We're using a system that is based out of trust, but the trust that is given to us is a scam.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing is this: you started studying also about health. You go down so many rabbit holes that at the very
Yeah.
the world that you held as true is no longer like that. And one of the things that keeps me hopeful, and I've taken the time to study with CIPD and Austrian economics, and I think that the School of the Austrians is really amazing, because despite the fact that I'm seeing the world right now to be a place that offers nothing, because it's very jarring, it's like doomsday is coming, right? But the beautiful thing about the Austrian school is at the end, what I'm here for, as serving as a human being, is to be able to collaborate voluntarily with one another so we can actually create a civilization that is based, that is authentic, where people thrive in creativity, where we respect one another in terms of property rights, we respect our bodies, we respect our land, we engage in communication that is fruitful, and we don't have to live in fear. When I speak it out loud like that right now, there's a part of myself going, oh, you're such a fool. But there's another part that says, no, it is not foolish, because actually the reason why Bitcoin arrived at this moment in history, and to the certain people that we get at, we are the warriors of light right now. Using Bitcoin as an incentive, monetary, obviously, because we need, if you don't take care of your needs and you don't know what you value, you don't have a creative life. That's it. That's it. It's like if you don't have roof and food, you're not going to survive many days. And you don't just want to have that. You want to be able to create, dance, communicate, record yourself when you're 7, and then keep on doing it when you're 44. You want to this. You want to be serving humanity. And so for me, that's why I call it that is a state of consciousness, and it will meet you where you're at. And we need different kinds of people in Bitcoin. There's some people who are not going to be willing to open up the part of the spirit or the heart. It's fine too. They probably want to do something else, and I invite them to. I don't think we all should be holding hands and being like,
No, not at all.
I respect everybody, because there's actually, through that contrast that I see sometimes when things that I don't understand, we actually learn something new. It is through contrast that we learn, as you call it, crisis. Crisis in Greek means decision. It is when you are in a moment of contrast, when you're in a moment of tension, when you're in a moment of like in the corner, like right or left. And so you just, you trust that you're going to make the right decision. It's going to lead you there. So for me, the opportunity that we have right now, it is a little bit urgent, I have to say, looking at the stars. We have very few months to actually, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people didn't get on the ark.
Yeah. For
And
sure. Many people are not going to
No.
survive this difficult time, right?
I'm going to boot out all the drunk people, the people who come in and they're not working, because Bitcoin requires that you are based, you are accountable, and you're sovereign at all levels, not just individually. Like I have, my coins here, But if you are a person who has not done any work, like trauma wise, you're going to be the drunk in the boat. You're going to be rocking the boat because you don't know how to deal with your trauma. So my boat, there's no drunk people. I require the people to be at least starting to work on their thing. You know, I'm not trying to say that it's a level like that. And whoever wants to work with that, and I can be of service, I will, or I will point to the place they can actually go and take some somatic practice or do some sort of therapy, because I think that we all have it available. It is so much out there. You don't have to pay a fortune. A lot of things are for free. I mean, people think, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. Make the money and make the time, you know, like, so I do feel that between here and June 2025, which is around the corner, a little bit more than 9 months, we're going to see so many changes that are going to keep on realigning us to our sense of service. So you're going to have more like coincidence or synchronicities and stuff like that. So, and even if there are moments of fear when the darkness comes, like you go, shh, already connected with this, you know, like you're almost like a warrior, like almost like a Jedi with a little learning how to use it, because that's what we're here. We're here to bring the light. And I only recently understood why they're called light workers. I would say 3 months ago.
Okay.
Because I've been connecting to my mom's spirit through every day when I pray, when I do something. And she told me one of these downloads, because I asked her, oh, where you been? You know, you kind of like having fun with everybody over there, but you're not with me. And she said, I'm with you every day, all the time. And I want to give you one gift. And I said, what is that? She goes, I am the light that is inside of you. And that light that is inside of you is the light of God. Whenever you want to be with God, you think of me, or you just think of your inner child. We're all together, we're one. And so I've been holding that so beautiful, because I do hold my little Monica when she's 3 years old. And she's the one, like, I mean, literally she's with the torch. She's like, where are we going? And I'm like, okay, you take me there. Just that spirit that wanted to be curious and everything. She's taking me to a place and she's telling me where to go, what to do, what not to do. So I feel that we are all being guided, and we're connecting, we're realigning. In human design, I have the cross of realignment, and knowing that even if it's not going to be easy, it's not the end. That's how I feel it. I have hope. It's not the end. We were born for this, and we're unveiling the most corrupted century since, I don't know, we can go back, but it is extremely programmed, corrupted by few, and we're seeing the end of it, which, like, astrologically is going to be in the next 2 years.
And the more corrupt and dark it is, the more light and
Yes.
opportunity to discover the trauma there is. Everything is surfacing, and you have the opportunity to tap into it and to see all your shit that is coming up and to deal with it.
Yes.
So it's like, it's a gift that we are being given right now.
Yes, that's how we want to win. And winning is not like killing everybody. It's like saying, hey, you know, there's so much light. And we came here. And the interesting thing is because we're at the very end, we have Saturn and Neptune going to the very end. They're going to meet at 1 degree, 0 degrees, 1 degrees of Aries in 2026, which is like the beginning of everything. We're going to be so renewed. I see myself already in the threshold. So I already know what's ending. I already kind of like did a little bit of mourning with my life before.
Yeah.
But I'm already excited about, like, okay, we're going to Disneyland, you know, like what is like, or to Paris or whatever. So I'm thinking already, okay, what do I need to get there? Do I have so I'm getting trained also, and more like physical stuff. So I'm putting my physical 100%, want to be ready for whatever it takes, because I have the courage. So it's like 100%, my body is healthy. I'm 60, but I want to look like I'm 30, you know, and behave like I'm 12.
You so don't look 60, my God.
Yes. But it is like, I'm ready for and I keep on saying, I'm ready for this shit. Bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Same. People may ask themselves why I'm still in Israel after everything I said, because obviously, clearly, it's not very fun here. But it's because my boyfriend, my partner, is here, and I want to be with him, and so I don't want to give up on my my
Yeah.
life's love. It's like the biggest love that I've ever experienced, my relationship with him. So I'm here because of him. My son is already in Australia, but I know that whatever happens here, as much as it's going to be hard and difficult, and even, I don't know, if God forbid more serious war will develop here, I will be fine. And
You
if
are.
I feel like I'm not fine, I will leave. But I'm long ago, I've been disconnected physically from Israel. And again, don't get me wrong, I love this place. I think it's beautiful, and the people, and the place and everything, but I will never put a land over human life, or my values. I will never put anything before myself or before human life. That is the most sacred thing for me.
That's the most beautiful part when you do charts. In the chart, you just see a glimpse of what the journey of your soul is throughout. And in this like little lens that you can see, you go, okay, there's a reason why you chose the conditions, the family, everything, your gender, everything, the situation, the timeline. Okay, the 80s, I want like, oh, I want to be 60s, like people just land in a different way. And then you take it, you get all the programming, all the conditioning, and then it's up to you to kind of find the light to say this part of the programming good, no good. This is bad, bad, bad. And then what to do with that. And I think that I really truly feel that evolution is a very individual choice. And if right now we're living in a very collectivist agenda, and this happens every 36 years when these two planets that I told you meet. The last time was the fall of the Berlin Wall. So sometimes
Right.
they collapse, sometimes they go back again. So I do see it everywhere that people are not finding who they are because they don't see that there's a limit between me and you. And those limitations are important because if you want to have freedom in your life and you don't know how to make a decision, everything that is going to be given to you, I don't know, is being chewed by somebody else before. It's not, if you don't care eating what other people are like, throwing away from their mouth, that's a choice. I do want people to know that they're free to do whatever the fuck they want. Like, I'm not here to say that my way is the way. Forget it. It's not easy making the choices that I do. But I love every choice because it comes from deeper place. It's not even me. It comes from source. Well, thank you so much. This was fun.
Wow, spending time with you is always such a gift. It's always so much fun and so rewarding and so enlightening and enriching. I really thank you for your presence and for everything you bring. You're so deep, and I love all the intricacies you have. Like, you're able to tap into different streams of knowledge and methodologies, and yeah, I just love how you think and how you deliver your messages. And I listened to your recent recording of you and your mom, and it was
Yes.
very, very moving, very touching. And I also, just before this, I read on your blog, you wrote, "What the fuck? Navigating normalization and structural collapse." I loved it. And what I loved the most was the part of Yuri Bezmenov, the interview, and how this is classic, what we were talking about right now. Like, I encourage everyone to go read that article because
Which
it's
article?
so, like, it summarizes so well the stages of programming that they
Which
your
article?
article on your Substack, the one that's called "What the Fuck?
Okay.
Navigating Normalization and Structural Collapse." So maybe you put a link for
I
that
will.
in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I am also very grateful that you encouraged me to apply and also spoke on my behalf for adopting Bitcoin because it's interesting. It's like that's why I think that we're connected in a way to kind of support each other and then things appear. Because that was in my wish list, like, oh, like I said, by the end of the year, because I do a lot of manifestations. Like by the end of the year, I'm just gonna be in front of like on a stage talking about it, and then what about? And I'm like, "Ah, don't worry, we got this." It's like that's this
You just wrote a book. What about? You've got like a
but
thousand things to talk about.
the idea came after I did the interview with Breedlove.
Uh-huh.
because of the something that I saw about Bitcoin with Prometheus, and then I sent it to you, and now this is becoming like basically you help open a portal for me, and I am so
Right.
like grateful, but at the same time, it's like it had to be. So I can't wait to spend time with you in El Salvador from all
I
places.
know. And everyone that's listening, come to El Salvador in November. We're going to have a party, like a
And
long party.
I love it. I love it. Like I thought I was everywhere, but you're like, no. And you're
I'm
so good at that.
everywhere.
Yeah, so that's good. That's when you're good and you're consistent, and that's great. So people don't have an excuse that I'm not doing this. It's like, she's also here. She's also here, because
Exactly. Yeah, I know, but it takes a long time. But I'm now like getting help.
okay,
Thank
my
you
love.
so much for hosting me.
No, it's a pleasure, and I send you a virtual hug. Bye, baby. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.